Okay. Anyone in the audience would like to ask a question? Quite a few, but let's. Okay, so Mike. So those wanna. Okay. Please line up first. Okay. Jeff, you wanna go? Okay.
Hi, Andrew. Thank you very much for your time. I would like to ask a question about the U.S. Related to U.S. global competitiveness with respect to domestic healthcare spending in the U.S., which is kind of a world-leading 17.7% of GDP. And here on this island, it's 6.4%, and our other peers of America are about 9%. I'm curious, how much effort do you think Joe Biden wants to try to help address this problem and kind of address all the different constituencies that are keeping it up high? How much capital will he be willing to expend on this?
When you look at the number one issue for most American voters, it's health care. And I had that experience directly on the trail myself. Now, most of their concerns are around a combination of access and cost, where what's happened in America is that private industry, in the healthcare sector in particular, has just continued to raise prices in various directions. I ran a company in the US, and I could not believe how much we were spending on health insurance for employees. And the cost just went up and up and up. And I'd look up and be like, are you kidding me? It's one reason why so many American companies try and turn everyone into an independent contractor or gig worker, because no one wants to handle the healthcare costs, because the insurance companies and the healthcare companies have just gotten so greedy. And their business model involves costs going up to the moon. When you say it's 17.7%, it was 16% not that long ago. So it's been growing faster than the overall U.S. economy for a long time. And Joe's very, very intent on trying to both broaden access and bring costs down for the average American consumer. If we were to do it right in the U.S., some of these healthcare companies would become less profitable if we were to do it right. Some of the device manufacturers, the insurance carriers, for sure. And I don't think this was Joe's primary concern, but voters' primary concern. And so I think there's going to be a lot of attention paid to it after pandemic relief and an economic recovery. I would say it's somewhere after those on the list of things that we're going to have to dig in on. You can't help but try to bring down that cost curve as soon as you're in charge in the United States, because it's breaking so many communities' backs and so many families' backs. And if you don't address it, you're actually just missing a huge piece of what's driving Americans to misery right now. I confess, it sounds like I'm making America like a very miserable place right now. And if I'm sending that message, that is generally accurate.
Hi, Andrew. It's Tyler from UBI Taiwan. I wanted to ask you, first of all, what have you seen in terms of changes in the Democratic Party and also in your conversations with Joe about basic income? Is there any more openings? Because I know Joe was not really a big fan. And then the second question I have is, what are you hearing from tech companies in terms of what they look for in AI policy? Because, I mean, I think China is very clearly beating us in terms of a national policy. They've been full speed ahead, and the United States has very little in terms of competing with that. So I'm wondering, what are the tech companies saying we should do and shouldn't do in terms of AI policy? Thanks.
UBI has grown so much as a core issue and economic policy since even my campaign ended, where there's a group now of dozens of some of the most influential mayors in the United States, including the mayors of Los Angeles, Atlanta, major cities who've come out for guaranteed income and trials. Some of those trials are rolling out right now. So it turns out that the mayors we're talking about are all Democrats. Many of them are black. And so universal basic income has become a very significant cause for many leading Democratic politicians. Kamala has been for a version of it during the pandemic. So I think that the energy in the U.S. is going to grow and grow. 55% of Americans say they're for it in a recent poll. If it's like that back in January, I might still be running. So the pandemic has dramatically increased support for universal basic income and cash relief measures. It's one reason why people now think I'm really smart in the U.S., including people who did not think I was that smart like X months ago. Again, 55% of Americans are for it now, and 82% are for cash relief during the pandemic. So that gives you a sense of where this falls in the popular will and imagination. In terms of AI policies, there is no national AI policy. The conversations I've had with folks in the industry say they'd like some kind of industry-wide guardrails because right now their incentives are just to go as fast as they can, and they say one of us is going to screw something up in an unfortunate way if we're all just competing as fast as we can with each other in China. And they want some help with some kind of computing infrastructure because right now the biggest American companies have billion-dollar investments in AI-related computing resources, but some of the smaller companies don't have that kind of thing. And even the big companies think that they don't have the same level of resources as the Chinese government is putting to use. So those are the issues that they're bringing to me, or at least they were bringing to me when I was running.
Hey, Andrew, my name's Robert. As a born and raised Californian, I'd like to thank you also in terms of representation. As like Steve said, we do look up to you as far as I'm concerned. You're our Black Panther. My question in terms of is more in terms of representation as well. I've had the opportunity to work at the UN as my first job out of college in New York. What I saw there every day was a lost and missed opportunity for Taiwan. All those conferences, all those opportunities for multilateralism, bilateralism. How would you, as a now prominent Democrat, shift the focus of Taiwan amongst the party, shift it away from letting, the Cruzes, the Rubios use it as a more pawn than partner? How would you upgrade, instead of a strategic ambiguity with the Democrats, how would you kind of elevate us to a strategic partnership?
Again, I think the dynamic has changed with both China and Taiwan over the last number of years. And I'm very eager to see what the new administration's approach could be. I will say that I personally regard this time as a missed opportunity because I think it helps everyone to have Taiwan collaborating on international health issues, collaborating on international trade issues. So that's certainly where I am, which probably would surprise no one listening to this. And I'm optimistic that the dynamics that applied X number of years ago under the Democrats may not apply moving forward. So certainly if I have a role to play in what that approach looks like, I would urge for greater engagement. But thank you for comparing me to Black Panther. There is an Asian
Shang-Chi
Marvel movie coming out next year, Shang-Chi, anyway. So maybe that'll be our Black Panther. I could be something else too. I could be like a real life version of somebody.
Andrew, I'm aware of your time. I know you need to get to the next meeting in approximately 13 minutes. So we still have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 people waiting to ask you questions. What I'm going to do is to ask them, maybe 3 of them, ask questions together, and you can choose however you want to answer. So we have 2 sets of questions, so they can all ask their questions. But you're free to choose how to answer and what questions to answer. Would that be okay?
Yeah, that's great. That's some Taiwanese efficiency in action.
That's
Look
right.
at that.
That's how we roll here.
Yeah.
All right, you go first, and then maybe two of you together. Yeah.
Okay. Hi, Andrew. My name is Sam Chang. I am president of Negative Vote Association. I sponsored a citizens initiative in El Cerrito, California this year, in addition to one in Taiwan. The initiative is related to electoral reform. I'm aware that you support ranked choice voting, but our reform proposal is to let voters have the choice to vote against a candidate and have such against vote counted as -1. Each voter still has 1 vote. This reform is applicable globally, and I hope that you'll take a look, see if the El Cerrito proposal initiative, when it comes back again, because this year it was blocked by the COVID-19 virus. We couldn't complete a signature collection. I hope you'll take a look and see if you'll support it next time.
Hi, Andrew. Thank you so much for calling in. My question is, in regards to the new economy, do you think we should be training people every few years to prepare for their next job, and not so much think that if you go to college, that's your education. If you go to grad school, that's your education. If you go to your PhD degree, that's your education. That we should instead be training people every, 10 years or 5 years or whatever, to prepare them for the next job. That's my question. Thank you.
Thank you both. I love political innovation. I haven't heard of the Negative Vote Initiative, but I love the fact you're fighting for it because I think that America's current voting system has massive problems, and any idea that lends to innovation, like ranked choice voting, as you know, I'm a fan of, which I think incorporates a little bit of the dynamic you're talking about, because if everyone just hates someone, then they're going to be on no one's list. But your mechanism, I know, is more direct and powerful. About the lifelong learning idea, I completely agree that we should have resources available for people who want to be retrained, particularly in this context, particularly in this economy. I will say that there's been a lot of nonsense bandied around about the way people learn, where it's not that if you take some 50-year-old former manufacturing worker and then you bring them in, then you can turn them into something else. Human beings are not infinitely malleable in that way. So my concern is that we don't take human nature into account, human limitations. When I look at some of my relatives, for example, it's like trying to retrain them for a new job every period. I don't think would work. But we should have continuous lifelong learning resources available for Americans at a much, much higher level than we do now. And we should expect that many, many more Americans are going to need some kind of industry or role change and support them in that. So I'm 100% on board with that approach, just with a caveat that we shouldn't pretend that it's going to work for everyone.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. Hey, Andrew. I like to share my personal connection with Andrew and then ask a question. I first met Andrew in 2014 at a student conference at Yale University, where you introduced your new book, your first book, Smart People Should Build Things. Then I also graduated from Columbia University in 2017, which is also your alma mater. I attended a Manhattan Prep, preparing for some tests, which you founded and later sold to Kaplan. And finally, I donated some money to you when I was in the United States earlier this year. My question has to deal with how we people in Taiwan should perceive the candidates in this presidential election. Because on the one hand, many people in Taiwan applaud the efforts of the Trump administration to take a harder stance on mainland China and upgrade relations with Taiwan, including senior level visits by officials, as well as arms sales. But we're also very troubled by the way the Trump administration handled the pandemic and racial tensions in the United States. And so my specific question is, how should the people of Taiwan strengthen our position to build a more robust relationship with America?
Okay.
That's
I think your question is clear. Okay.
right. Sorry, please let me finish. How to build a more robust relationship that's consistent with the interests of the American people, but also consistent with Taiwanese interests. Like, we don't want to consume maybe the U.S. beef and pork products containing the rectopamine additive, or we want to procure arms at a more reasonable price.
Okay.
Thank you, Andrew.
All right, next one. Go ahead. Please.
Hello. Yeah, my name is Kevin. Andrew, I'm your fan. If you ever run for president, I'll vote for you. So my question is, for UBI, it makes a lot of sense to help, less fortunate. But how do you? But if the wealth gap remains, eventually people are going to demand more, right? If you give them $1,000, they're going to want $2,000, and yeah, that's a human nature, right? And then how do you balance that between drifting towards more of a kind of communist, approach, right, where you basically redistribute wealth to a point where it's not based on their effort.
Yeah.
The second is
One question only. Go next. I'll let you all ask questions, and then Andrew can answer because we have 5 minutes left. Yeah, thank you.
Hi, it's Jerry from Stanford Alumni Club. I have a very simple question. So how and will Joe push for UBI? Thank you.
Good.
Hi, Andrew. Big fan of yours. I watch every single debate you're in. Same question on UBI. I remember I read somewhere like some Northern European country tried it and then they kind of stopped it. So why do you think they stopped it? And why do you think that it will work for America?
Hey, Andrew, fellow entrepreneur as well. Quick question, hard, and then a philosophical one. The hard question is, where do you, not Joe Biden, but where do you stand on the issue of America's stance towards Taiwan regarding strategic ambiguity? Should we shift towards strategic clarity? And then a philosophical happy question, which is, how do we all, as part of the diaspora, the Taiwanese diaspora, people on stage, better help Taiwan in general engage specifically in the entrepreneurial realm? Thank you.
Was that the last question?
Yes, that's it, Andrew. 5 of them.
Okay, that's helpful. So I can try and weave a few of them together. Many of them were about universal basic income, and then others were about Taiwan. So I think that those questions both make a lot of sense. The UBI trial you talked about was in Finland, and it had many, many positive effects, better health, mental health, stress levels, public trust. And they discontinued it for some other set of reasons. So there's no reason to be discouraged by that trial. It's actually very encouraging, and it's been consistent with every other implementation we've seen. There's some concern about what UBI leads to in the United States of America. I know what the absence of UBI leads to, and it's widespread deprivation, desperation, ruin, and the disintegration of many, many families and communities, which, no exaggeration, you're seeing versions of that play out right now in the U.S. So let's do what we should do. And then if there's some evolution or progression thereafter, that would be a better place to be in than anything we're dealing with right now. You can see that the U.S. wrote a $2.2 trillion set of checks a number of months ago, but very, very little of that went directly to American families. And the money that did go to families was an enormous benefit, not just to those families, but to businesses and the economy. So this is the future. Should be the present in the U.S. And to the extent that there are issues with it, they're going to be vastly superior to the issues that we'd face in the absence of some measure like that. About where I stand on Taiwan and what Taiwan can do, this is going to be going to sound somewhat self-serving. But I think that that Taiwan has to try to make itself felt in American politics, regardless of the administration or the party of the administration in charge. I do think that there's going to be a reevaluation of the traditional democratic approach to relations with Taiwan and China in 2021. And that's an opportunity. And I said very early in this talk that American politicians respond to resources. And so if one brings resources to bear with Democratic politicians, that I think there's going to be a receptiveness, particularly in light of what will be something of a reset of a relationship. Where I stand on these issues is that I want what's best for the path to peace and prosperity for everyone concerned. You have, I think, a sense of my deep relationship with the people of Taiwan. I will say that it would be truly awful for one of the major democratic success stories of the last number of decades, but for that to somehow change. And I think that actually is a perspective that transcends even the relationship between U.S. and Taiwan and the China relationship. That to me, that speaks to a fundamental question of what America is and what it stands for. And that's my perspective on it. So that gives you a sense as to where I am. That there are like the national strategic interests of the moment, but then there's something that actually speaks like the definition of who you are as a society, what your obligations mean on the world stage, and the vision you'd have for the world at large. So hopefully that's some sense of where I would lead, ideally, but we need you all to try and help make the case to the new administration, and I know you'll do just that. It's been a thrill to be with you all. I do miss Taiwan. I hope my family and I can get back there. My youngest son has never been, and that's something I'd love to change, particularly because his older brother has been. And it makes the younger one feel very, very bad because the younger one now regards Taiwan as this magical land that you have to be a certain age to visit. So hopefully when he hits that age, I'll be able to come and see you all. Thank you all for supporting me, Humanity Forward, my campaign. And we have to keep working together. We have a lot of work to do. For those of you who are dubious about the Biden administration and its approach, let's do everything we can to push the Biden administration in a positive direction. But I genuinely think that having Joe as president is a necessity for the future of not just America, but the world. Thank you all very much, and thank you for making today happen. I enjoyed it a great deal. Enjoy what you have over there, Taiwan, too. Appreciate it, because we wish we had it over here in the States. Thank you all so much.
Thank you, Andrew. We love you.
Thank you, Jay. Appreciate you all.
Everybody wave to Andrew. Bye-bye. Okay, he's gone. What a great time to be spending with someone who is so deep into probably the most important events in the world for the next week. I think you all are in this for a treat, whether you support Trump, Biden, or just support Taiwan. I think what had happened in the last 2 hours is not only an intellectual debate, but more of a deep and thoughtful ideas for everyone to take home with. We have a little bit of time left. I'm sure our panelists on stage may have a few words to say before we conclude for tonight. We'll start with Sean, okay? Maybe 1 to 2 minutes, no more.
Obviously, I guess a lot of people were telling Andrew Taiwan is like a Trump state. But I got to say, according to Liberty Times, which is actually very closely affiliated with the ruling party in Taiwan. So according to Liberty Times, Taliban also supports the Trump administration. So it's not just Taiwan. And I'm not sure that's a good message that I want to deliver to somebody in the potential or possible Biden administration, because that's just, I'm not sure if that's a good message, because for our purposes, I guess you want to make sure that whether it's Biden or Trump in government, in power, that will not in any way endanger Taiwan's interest, which is national security or trade or cross-strait relationships. So that's just my opinion. I think that Taiwan should not be considered a Trump state. Okay, it's not, because that's not the truth. So that is just my observation. So to share with everyone.
I've been in Taiwan 10 years. AmCham has been in Taiwan for 70 years. What's good for Taiwan is good for AmCham and good for me personally. What he said that I want everyone to take home is that if there is a new administration, I think we all have to make sure that they are aware of the issues we have in Taiwan and aware of the concerns we have. And certainly, American Chamber of Commerce will make sure that our voice is heard. And I think for all of you who have a connection to the U.S., you have to make sure that your local representatives and government officials are aware of the issues that we're facing and make sure that it gets through. As I said, we have a golden moment in Taiwan. I think we have to work together to kind of realize that. I hope working with some of the tremendous people who are here now, who are fleeing COVID, I hope you can stay a little longer and help us to make Taiwan even better. Thank you.
Well, I mean, I think in short, having just again come from the U.S. but being here, I think the most important thing right now is to just give Taiwan a louder voice, and I think to do that is to do something here locally.
Shirley?
Hi. Does it work? Okay. I just say this to, looks like 2/3 of the people are younger than me. It's not difficult, but still, it's great to have so many people here who seem to be interested in coming to this event on Thursday. To echo what Leo said, I teach at this new college called College of Innovation. So we were asking the dean, what's so innovative about your school? You don't have any technology courses. And that leads us to really say, actually, we wanted to hear the answer, which we don't hear a lot in Taiwan, but policy needs innovation. And it needs it even more than just thinking about programming. And I think what Andrew said on the screen too is important. The Asian Americans are one of the least political people as constituents in the United States. We need to show the spirit of Taiwan, whether here or abroad, which is Taiwan has a great sense of political mobilization. And every issue that comes up, and I think this forum is great. I come from Hong Kong, so you can imagine what I'm saying. Having public policy debate is very important. To competition improves everything, especially public policy. And I think that by your being here, you're also interested. And I encourage you to continue to participate, be part of the debate of anything and everything that happens here and abroad.
Hi, this is Charles. I think what helps Taiwan gain international recognition the most is to have a free, friendly, fair, and predictable legal institution. But at the same time, just remember to be too much intervention into this huge and dynamic economy. So, yeah.
Great. I hope all of you all enjoyed tonight and that you come home with a renewed sense of hope and optimism. And given that how difficult this year has been, that you still look forward to a bright future, and by taking actions and making our humanities better, and by working together, whether or not you have differences in ideology, but we all are building the same tomorrow. So with that, thank you for today's panelists, and let's come on the stage and take a group photo. I also like to have our chair, Ye Kwang-shi, to come on to take a group photo together. Thank you all for joining for today's